Is diagnosed with blood cancer every 4 minutes. And even though the disease is so common, 70% of patients have to rely on a stranger to get a bone marrow or stem cell transplant. It turns out a patient's best chance of finding a genetic match lies with those who have a similar ethnic background. That's why the organization Gift of Life has made it their mission to add diversity to the registry, especially to help the Jewish minority. Joining us today in the studio is Alec Burkin from the Gift of Life. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Nisasha.
So to begin, tell us about your organization and how it was founded.
Sure. So the Gift of Life was founded as a reactionary measure to a 23-year-old boy who was diagnosed with leukemia. And when he was diagnosed, the doctors looked him in the eye, him and his mother, and said, because you're an Ashkenazi Jew, you have less than a 5% chance of finding a compatible donor match. And this is because, as you mentioned, individuals who have a common genetic and ethnic background are going to be compatible donors for one another. And at that point in 1991, Ashkenazi Jews were a very underrepresented minority in the International Bone Marrow Registry.
I first want to find out how you got involved in this, but I also want to understand, why is it that you're more likely to find a donor with a common ethnic background?
Sure. So bloodlines run very deep. And individuals need to find a compatible donor so that the cells of the donor work and respond well within that of the recipient, because it's much easier to receive from someone who is very close to you, so someone within your immediate family. However, 70% of people have to rely on the altruistic donor international registry in order to find this match, and Gift of Life provides those donors. We educate and solicit individuals in America and in Israel to join the bone marrow registry with the potential to help save a life one day.
How did you get involved?
So my story is quite unique. I was 18 years old, and I was on the Birthright Israel experience, which has now sent nearly 500,000 students to Israel to experience a 10-day trip. And the Gift of Life and Birthright Israel are national partners. So the participants on that trip oftentimes are educated by me and my colleagues about the opportunity to join the bone marrow registry. So I was 18 years old, as I mentioned. I was sitting in the hotel in Jerusalem after a long day of hiking Masada and seeing this beautiful country, and someone came and presented about the opportunity to get involved. I didn't really know much about bone marrow. Many people don't, and I thought it was a very difficult thing. And yet I decided to swab my cheek that day, and I'm very glad that I did, because just 1 year later, when I was 19 years old and I was studying for my finals at Syracuse University in New York, I was called as a perfect match for a 59-year-old woman who is suffering from leukemia. I had the opportunity to save her life that summer, and since then I've been involved with the organization, giving others the same opportunity that was given to me, the opportunity to give life.
Did you ever get the chance to meet her?
Yeah, so this is one of the best parts along this journey with me and Gift of Life. 1 year later, after I donated, I had the opportunity to meet this woman. Her name is Susan. She lives in Chicago, and we actually met on stage at a Gift of Life fundraiser in Boca Raton, where our international headquarters are. And we met on stage. We had a very private moment in a very public space, but immediately that day we both knew the power that we had to encourage others to get involved, to help spread this message.
That's amazing. Now, why is there such a stigma around bone marrow transplants and stem cell transplants?
Sure. So I think there's many misconceptions involved with this industry. Many people think it's a very difficult process that a donor has to endure in order to actually help someone, and this is not the case. Today, 80% of donations are done through a peripheral blood stem cell donation, which is similar to giving blood for an extended period of time. It's a long, boring day in the hospital. You are awake the whole time. This is the process that I went through, and the most painful part of the process for me was when I was getting the needle out of my arm at the end of the day. I have arm hair, and the tape ripped out my arm hair at the end of the day. I walked out. I played tennis the day before and the day after I donated, and the rest is history. I first had the opportunity to save a life, and now have obviously made a career out of it. So what is more of a blessing than that?
Well, yeah, I mean, hearing this story makes me myself want to also potentially be a transplant in the future. Now, how can I get involved? How can I make myself available to somebody that's in need?
Sure. So there are several ways to get involved. The first is to actually become a donor yourself. So in Israel and in America, we are looking for people that permanently live in America to potentially become a donor themselves. And so here we actually have a donor test kit. There are 4 Q-tips, and individuals swab the 4 corners of their mouth, which you're welcome to do right now.
Oh yeah, I would love to
demonstrate.
I can do that right now, so you can see how simple it is to actually join this organization.
So you swab the 4 corners of your mouth for 10 seconds with each of the Q-tips, and from that you are able to determine if you're a potential match.
Okay, so as you can see, guys, this is a very simple process. 2 cotton swabs, 4 corners of your mouth. I'm not going to do it right now, but I am going to do this right afterwards. You'll show me so that I can also get on your list. Now, everybody, if you want to learn more about the Gift of Life, what can you do?
So you can go to giftoflife.org and order a kit online. It can be sent directly to your home. And if you are an Israeli watching this and you're involved with American programs within this country, I would encourage you to contact our organization and partner with us, so that together we can save lives.
Absolutely. Do you have to be Jewish to be part of this?
No. So we are a non-denominational organization. We were established as the Jewish organization in the early 90s because we wanted to increase the representation for Ashkenazi Jews at that time, and we've been very successful in doing so. As I mentioned, when Jay was diagnosed, there was a 5% chance of finding a compatible donor match at that time, and today, over the course of the last 25 years, now there's over an 80% chance as an Ashkenazi Jew of finding a compatible donor match today. So we are very happy to now have the opportunity to replicate that same success for other ethnic minorities that are facing similar odds to what we faced in the early 90s.
Well, it's amazing. So anybody can get involved. That's the bottom line here. And obviously, of course, if you are Jewish and you would like to get involved, you know who you should be speaking to. This is Alec Burkin. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks so much, Natasha. I really appreciate you having me.